Hi folks, it's been a while since we've made a quick pick video. I apologize, but the coronavirus has been affecting our household as well. Um, Also, just in general, 2020 has not been a good year, and I'll leave it at that. But I wanted to show a couple of quick picks. I know that people have a lot of different use cases right now. A lot of us still working from home. A lot of us wondering what we'll be doing in terms of come the fall and so forth. So let's start out with this item here. This is the Lenovo ThinkCentre M90N. Now this is a very interesting computer. What it is, it's a small form factor computer, and right up front I'll tell you it uses a laptop version of an i5 processor, but it's a pretty darn good deal, particularly if you're going to be working from home. Now, right now, Lenovo is selling it for $399, and I'll put a link to this page in the notes below. But if you have a student ID, or if you're a faculty member at a school like I am, or if you're a vet like I am, at checkout it offers to let you authenticate through an ID program. I forget exactly which one it is, but I think you wind up getting an additional 10% off. So you can get this for around $360. And at $360, it's a pretty darn good deal. Let's take a look at some of the details about this system. Now, it comes with a wireless keyboard and a wireless mouse. It does not come with a monitor. We'll talk about that in a second, because there is a workaround that you need to do if you're going to use this for most of us. Now, one of the things, and this will be common to all the Lenovo machines that I'm going to talk about today, one of the things that Lenovo started doing that I'm not a big fan of is they've started soldering memory onto their laptop and in this case a desktop that uses laptop boards. That means that you can't really upgrade the RAM. Now this is a decent amount of RAM, and to be honest, for most of us this is all we'll ever need. One of the really nice things about this machine though is it comes with a 512 gig PCIe, also known as an NVMe SSD, so one of the faster SSDs. The other nice thing about this, let me switch over here, is if you open this machine up, it actually has another slot for another SSD. So while you can't expand the RAM, you can expand the storage pretty darn easily. Let's see, other than that, it obviously has a wireless connector. And let's take a look at the ports. So I've opened up another one of their pages. Now, when you look for information on the M90N, you're actually going to find sort of two different versions of it. The one that we're talking about is the one in front here. This one in back that has these fins on it is the Internet of Things version. And in particular, it comes with two old school serial ports for hooking up things like modems for collecting and sending data and so forth. The version we're looking at has a different array of ports. Along the front it has the power button, but it also has a USB-C, two USB-A's, and a headphone jack. And then on the back you'll notice that it has an Ethernet port, which is handy for a lot of us. Has a couple of more USB-A's and another USB-C. There's the power connector. Now the one thing missing is that there's no HDMI port. It does have a display port. So what this means is, for most of us, if we're using this from home, we're probably going to hook it up maybe to a 4K TV or something along those lines. You will need, and I'll give a link to this as well, some sort of cheap, if you will, adapter so that you can use a DisplayPort to HDMI setup. There are cables that'll do that for you, so you can buy a fairly cheap cable on Amazon, or if you've already got an HDMI cable and you'd rather use that, you can buy one of these little adapters. You just plug it into the back of the computer, and then on the other end it has a slot to hook the HDMI cable in straight. So overall, this is a fairly decent little machine. It's fairly powerful. It's going to be about as powerful as a typical mid-tier laptop, if you will. But the nice thing is, and if you'll compare this thing to the size of a pen here, it's pretty darn small. It takes up a lot less space on your desktop. I've seen people hook these things up to the back of their monitors. So at $399 with a potential 10% off if you're a vet or a student and so forth, this is a good deal. Now, our second good deal is also from Lenovo. It's the Lenovo Ideapad 5. Now this new version of the Ideapad comes with a 4th generation Ryzen chip, and these chips are really good. In particular, it has 6 processors in it, so this thing is going to be more than powerful enough to handle any of your computing needs. If you're sending somebody off to college, this is the type of processor, and to be honest, the type of machine that I would recommend they get. I know a lot of students like Macs and they show up to schools at Macs, but particularly if you're going to study business, or if you think there's a chance you'll study business or science, there's a lot of software that will run on a PC that won't run on a Mac, and this is a lot cheaper than a Mac. Now, a couple of features. Now, once again, unfortunately, they've got the soldered RAM, so you're not going to be able to upgrade that. It does come with a 512 gig PCIe SSD, just like the ThinkCenter that we looked at a second ago. That's a lot of storage. That's probably more storage than most of us are going to need. This chip comes, this processor, the Radeon 5 processor, comes with a built-in graphics engine, if you will. Now, one of the things about the graphics engine is it's pretty darn good. It's not as good as sort of a discrete graphics card, so you're not going to be playing high-end games at high-end resolution, but you can play most games. And also, you'll see that lots of software today leverages graphics cards, and they'll be able to use this to speed up things like array processing and so forth. The one thing about the Radeon approach, though, is that it shares memory with the CPU. So that means this 8 gig is going to be enough, but it's probably going to be just enough, if you will. If you're the kind of person that has a lot of tabs open in Chrome at the same time that they're doing a lot of other things, you might run a little bit tight on memory. I used to say, we want at least 4 gig. Nowadays, we want at least 8 gig, and 8 gig is still acceptable. But do keep in mind that since this is soldered, you're not going to be able to upgrade it. The other nice thing is it has a backlit keyboard. Now, this is not a ThinkPad, right? The commercial version of Lenovo's machines, but it's a fairly decent machine. And the nice thing about having a 15-inch screen, they do have a thin bezel. But they still have enough keyboard space that they can put a dedicated numeric keypad off to the right. Now, in the interest of fair disclosure, this is a Ryzen 5. It has 512 gig of storage and 8 gig of RAM. You can get what some would argue is a slightly better deal at Walmart. Now, those of you that have watched my videos recently know that I'm not real happy with Walmart right now in terms of some of their, what I perceive to be price gouging. But I will say that they're offering the Ryzen 7, which is equivalent to an Intel i7, cheaper than Lenovo is offering the Ryzen 5. Now, the trade-off here, though, and you'll probably notice this right away, is that you only get half as much storage. To be quite honest, I would go with this one. The difference between the Ryzen 5 and the Ryzen 7, it's not that much. Yes, the Ryzen 7 does have 2 more cores. It has 8 cores of processing. But for most things, 6 cores is plenty. And having that extra storage, having a half a terabyte of SSD storage, is better than having a quarter terabyte of SSD storage. Just my opinion. I know some of you will say, well, I can buy this and upgrade the SSD. And yes, you can upgrade the SSD, but this thing's RAM is soldered too, so that's going to be a bottleneck. So I wouldn't worry about upgrading, getting the Ryzen 7. I'd go for the Ryzen 5. Now, if you would like to get a really good deal on a laptop and you're comfortable maybe down the road upgrading, let's say, the RAM and the SSD, and potentially even adding a hard drive. It used to be Lenovo was the go-to company for that type of upgradability. Nowadays, there's other choices out there. And the one that I would probably have to recommend is this Acer Aspire 5. Now, it does come with a Ryzen 3 3200 versus the Ryzen 3 or Ryzen 5 or Ryzen 7 4000 series. So it's a slightly older Ryzen processor. It's the one from last year. But this is still a decent processor. The nice thing is that even though this thing comes with a relatively small RAM of only 4 gig, which is doable, it's going to serve you well for most of us, and it comes with 128 gig SSD, is that both of those things are upgradable. This Acer Aspire 5 has 2 slots for RAM sticks in it that are replaceable, so you could potentially upgrade this to 16 or I suspect in some cases 32 gig of RAM, more than most of us are ever going to need. Likewise, the SSD is an NVMe SSD, just like the Lenovo machines we were talking about before. It can be swapped out. And there is a hard drive bay that'll take a 2.5-inch hard drive in this thing. So, you know, the nice thing here is that this is a very upgradable laptop. And for $350, I'll provide the link on Amazon, it's a great deal. Now, the last thing I'm going to mention, and I will point out that it's for a very sort of particular set of use cases, is a new Chromebook that came out from Lenovo. And this thing's getting rave reviews. This is the Lenovo Chromebook Duet. Now, right now it's sold out at Best Buy, but Best Buy seems to be getting very frequent restockings. And if you watch, you'll be able to grab one of these things. Now, this thing actually comes in two versions. The only difference between the version is how much storage it has. There's one with 64 gig, and there's this one with 128 gig. The 64 gig, for example, I'm not going to put the link in, but I know you can find the 64 gig at Walmart for about 40, 50 bucks less than this. I wouldn't get it, and there's an important reason. The one I don't know if I should call it a shortcoming or not, but the one difference between this Chromebook and most other Chromebooks I've seen, most other Chromebooks don't give you even 64 gig of RAM. Heck, you're lucky if you get 32 gig. In many cases, it's only 16. Sorry, I said RAM, I meant storage. But most other Chromebooks come with an SD card slot for one of the micro SD cards like you have in a phone. This Chromebook does not come with an SD slot. So whatever memory, excuse me, I'm doing it again, whatever storage you get with it is the storage you're going to have. Now, other than that, this is a wonderful Chromebook. I'm getting one, and I'll post a review of it, but it has very nicely removable keyboard. Comes with a stand. It's very similar to Microsoft's Surface Go products, except the Surface Go obviously is Windows. This is Chrome. For most people, the Chrome ecosystem is all you need, right? You'll be able to go into your Google Calendar. You can use Google Sheets. I know that Microsoft has come out with Android versions of your typical Office products. And the nice thing, one of the nice things about this is that it'll run Android out of the box, which means that you can download the same Android apps that you use on your phone and use them here. It also has, and let's close this out so we're not keeping looking at these things, it also has a touchscreen. So makes it very easy to interface with things on the screen the same way that you do on your own machine. So who would I get this for? I wouldn't get it for somebody that's going to college, that's going to major in business or in the sciences. But just about anybody else. If you're buying this for a kid that's still in elementary school, middle school, or high school, and particularly if their school uses the Google infrastructure a lot, this is a great product. It's very transportable. It's light. It's relatively small, but it has a fairly high-def screen. It's like 1920 times 1080. So using it for things other than school, like watching videos or playing games or even just browsing the web and everything, is going to be a very pleasant experience. Being a Chromebook, the battery life is going to be fairly good. The cameras on this thing are not bad. The rear-facing camera is 8 megapixels. The front-facing is 2 megapixels. Not quite up to leading-edge cell phone standards, but it's probably better than a lot of other cheaper, say, Windows laptops in the same price range. Depending upon what you do with it, obviously you're not going to get 10 hours of life for the battery, but I'd say getting a good solid 7 to 8 hours is definitely something you can expect. The other thing is it does come with USB Type-C. So for most of us, if you've got a phone that charges with USB Type-C, this will use the same phone charger. I think this is a really good deal, particularly for something like a second laptop or something to just sort of keep around, the house, the couch, or whatever to browse with if you need it. Definitely something if you're looking for a nice usable graduation gift, I would definitely think about getting this for somebody. So we've had a variety of choices here. If you're buying for yourself or for somebody else that's working on the couch or working from home, and they don't need the portability of a laptop, something like the ThinkCentre M90N is definitely something to think about. If you are buying let me skip ahead a couple here. If you are buying a computer and you still use the Windows ecosystem a lot, you need to have other types of apps that you install on your computer, and if a lot of them only run on Windows, or if you're heading to college and you think that you'll be in a situation where you need to have sort of native, if you will, versions of things like Microsoft Excel or Microsoft Access, or even you want more power with one of the Adobe products or something like that. I would recommend this Lenovo laptop. And again, I would veer towards the Ryzen 5 version that's available from Lenovo themselves versus the Ryzen 7. You know, and I didn't think about it. I had gone through sort of the ordering process for the ThinkCentre, but I imagine that you can also get the 10% discount on this Ideapad 5 as well, going through Lenovo. And then our last two options that we looked at, for upgradability, for a nice size, and for a good sort of future potential upgrade path, I go with the Acer Aspire 5. Now, this thing does not have a touchscreen. It's not a 2-in-1, but it's a good conventional laptop, and it has plenty of power, and it's very upgradable. If you want something with a touchscreen and you're willing to give up Windows compatibility, this Lenovo Duet is the way to go. Hope that's been helpful, and as always, if you like the video, I hope that you'll subscribe and hit the like button. Take care.